Hello and welcome to today's lesson. We're going to be doing 10-7 in the Big Ideas book, and it is circles in a coordinate plane. So we're just going to review quickly here. So what is a quadratic equation? Remember, a quadratic equation when you have an exponent to the second power. All right, and so name all the methods that can be used to solve the quadratic. And so we know that we have worked on factoring in the last, actually all year we've done factoring. We've talked about the quadratic formula, opposite of b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And we just did completing the square as a review, okay? So we're going to just quickly review completing the square here as a quick refresher since we've done that one the least. So remember, we're going to want x squared plus 16x plus blank equals negative 15 plus blank. So to fill this number in, we're going to take this number right here, 16, we're going to divide by 2, and then square it. So 16 divided by 2 is 8. 8 squared is 64. So I'm going to put 64 in each blank. Now, the whole purpose of us doing that is because we want to be able to write this side over here as a perfect square. So the square root of 64 is 8. So this is going to be x plus 8. And if we take 64 and we subtract 15 from that, we end up with 49. Now, in order to solve this, we are going to take the square root of both sides. So we have x plus 8, and remember this is plus and minus 7. So now we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. So we have negative 8 plus 7 is a negative 1, and negative 8 minus 7 is a negative 15. So the two solutions for solving this quadratic equation is negative 1 and negative 15. All right, moving on, we're going to be talking about circles in the coordinate plane. All right, so let's find the distance between point A and point C. So the distance formula here, just as a quick recollection, is distance equals the square root. So I'm going to start filling this in. So distance equals the square root, and I'm just going to start from point A to B. So I'm going to use this first. So I'm going to say x minus h quantity squared plus, from my other point, I'm going to go y minus k quantity squared. All right, now, actually what I can do is square both sides. So if I square this side and square this side, I end up with something that says distance squared equals x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared. And recall, where this h and k came from is from this point right here, where really what I can do is make this into a full-blown circle. And what do we have here is that C is my center. So the center is at HK, and what this green line right here represents is the radius. Okay, so instead of having D in here, I could actually erase this, and I could say that this is the radius squared. So radius squared, this is having a hard time letting go of the eraser. Radius squared, and so this xy is just a point on the circle, but this h and k came from the center of the circle. So this is actually the general form for a circle. Radius squared equals x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared. Okay, so here is the general standard form of a circle. Center is at HK, so we get it right from here, HK. Remember that these negative signs in here, so it's going to be the opposite. and then xy is just a point on their circle, and r is your radius. Okay, this is the general form. Now, let's go in and see if we can take a graph and if we can write the general form. Remember, it's x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals the radius squared. So I really need two things. I need the center and I need the radius. Well, by looking at this graph, we can find both. The center is at what point? 2, 1. And the radius is 1, 2, 3, 4 units long. So now I can just go into this equation here and I can fill in x minus and y minus. All right, I'm going to go in and fill in my points here. So this is my x, so I'm going to plug in a 2, and this is my y, and that's a 1. Now I know it looks like x minus 2, but remember I'm just filling in that h value, so I'm plugging in the 2, so yes, it looks like minus 2. But it's x minus 2 quantity squared, and my radius is 4, and because now they want me to square it, I put in a 16. So here is the standard form for a circle. Standard form for a circle. So if I give you the equation x plus 5 quantity squared plus y minus 6 quantity squared equals 81, can you find the center? And can you find the radius? So remember, the radius comes from this number right here, but remember that represents radius squared. So this stands for radius squared. So we want to do the square root. So the square root of 81 is 9. And the center is going to come from here. Now remember, this needs to say x minus. So in order for that to be a plus sign, remember that they have a minus 5, but mathematicians don't like the minus a negative, so they make that be a plus sign. So remember, what we're really plugging in here is a negative 5. Whereas on this side, we've got y minus, so the only thing we want to pull out is that 6. So the center of this particular circle is going to be at negative 5, 6. All right, so if they give you a point on the circle, can we now write the equation of this circle? All right, so what are we going to do here? If I want to write the equation, so I need radius squared equals x, where is my center, is right here. So it's going to be x plus 1 quantity squared plus y minus 3 quantity squared. So now I'm going to find my distance here, and my distance between a point and a circle. So I need to find my distance so that I can find my radius. So I'm going to have negative 5 minus a negative 1 plus 6 minus 3. So this minus a negative is going to turn into a plus 1. So we've got a negative 4, and negative 4 squared is 16. And 6 minus 3 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So I have the square root of 25. But remember, we really want to square both sides so that it says radius squared equals 25. So that I can fill in this number right here with the number 25. So I'm just going to erase that and plug that in with the number 25. All right. So one last kind of question here that we have. Oops, it skipped. So one last question here is writing the equation of a circle, find the center and the radius, then go ahead and graph that. All right, so this is where our completing the square comes into play. So we are going to have to complete the square twice here because I need it to be able to say something with the x squared in it and I need it to be able to say something with the y square in it and then radius squared. So that's my goal where I need to get to so that I can pull off my center from this point. So I'm going to start putting my stuff together. So I have x squared minus 8x, and I know I'm going to have to complete the square, so I'm going to leave myself a blank. Then I'm going to do the same thing with my y's. So plus y squared, then I've got plus 4y, and I'm going to leave myself a blank, equals, now I'm going to put this 16 on the other side. So I'm just going to put negative 16 over here. And I need 2 blanks. I need 1 blank for the y portion, and I need 1 blank for the x portion, because whatever I do on one side, I need to be able to do on the other side. All right, and it's just easier to clear out that number and deal with it on the other side. So what number now can go in here? Negative 8, what's half of that, and then square it. So negative 8 divided by 2 is a negative 4. Negative 4 squared is 16. So I'm going to put a 16 on one side, a 16 on the other. So now that makes me be able to write this as a perfect square, x minus 4 quantity squared. Then I can go on the other side, and I'm going to look at this term in here, 4. And so half of 4 is 2. And 2 squared is 4. So I'm going to put in a 4 and put in a 4. Now I can write this as x plus 2 quantity squared. And so now over here, oh, when I move that negative 16 over, I see I made a mistake here. I need to erase this, because when I put it on the other side, that should have been a positive 16. All right, so 16 plus 16 is 32 plus 4. So it looks like I am getting x minus 4 quantity squared plus y plus 2 quantity squared equals, and over there I got a 36. So let's go back to the 2 questions, and they want to know the center. So the center of this circle is going to be at 4, negative 2, and then they want to know the radius, and the radius of this is going to be the square root of 36, so the radius is at 6. All right, now I think they want us to graph this, so 4, negative 2, so you just go on to 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 2, and here's your center, and then you just count up 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Count over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and down 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like I'm running out of room. And then you can go ahead and make your circle. Okay. All right. That's it for today's lesson. So you have to be able to write this in standard form. In standard form is x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals your radius squared. And remember that center comes from HK. Now just be careful, because if you see a negative 2 here, if it says x minus 2 quantity squared, that center is a positive 2. Okay, so do not get caught on that. All right, good luck.